With many of the paint schemes Jimmie Johnson has driven in the course of his NASCAR Cup Series career, you don't even need to look at them without describing them in almost superb detail. You've got his rookie scheme, you've got his dynasty scheme, and then you've got the one which he won his 7th championship and tied Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. All of these cars, I instantly have that picture in my head of this car celebrating a championship and winning races. White Lightning is another masterpiece of the Lowe's era. But unlike its predecessors, it failed to garner the pedigree of dominance with Jimmie Johnson behind the wheel. Therefore, it's time to flip the ignition and go full throttle on the history of White Lightning and why it is so cursed and revered to Jimmie Johnson's most loyal fans. The 2012 NASCAR Cup season saw a rather intriguing change to the 48. So as we all know, Lowe's was a loyal sponsor to Jimmie Johnson. Well, that's as long as you forget whenever Lowe's abandoned him after he stopped winning and went to the No Fun League. But anyways, this would be an intriguing change for the 48, as gone were the yellow numbers, and in was a blue and white racing stripes-esque design. And also part of this new look, Lowe's used the simplistic base design to promote some of their special paints. Chevrolet Mountain Green and Cortez Silver to name a few. The breakout color amongst the group, the one driving up merchandise sales and garnering big money, was Dover White. The paint scheme made its debut at the Kentucky Speedway, and without a doubt the car looks stellar as the bright stadium lights shine down on the 48. The blue on this car also fit really well with the Dover White, as obviously white is one of their primary company colors. And I'm not a big fan of most white paint schemes. I find them bland most times. But honestly, the execution of this car, it's one of the best without a doubt. It was truly a simplistic car, and it harkened back to the paint a number and race days of the 1950s. Performance-wise, Jimmie Johnson put the car on the pole and finished 400 miles in the 6th position. And due to the popular demand, the paint scheme returned for the next night race at Bristol. And once again, the car looked great, and it came all the way from the back to finish runner-up to Denny Hamlin. And so, it was no surprise, this paint scheme would return for the 2013 racing season. Lowe's would use this scheme as an inverse for night races, racing every primetime event with the exception for some of the Cobalt races and other special schemes throughout the year. The first 2 races were Texas and Richmond, and honestly, they were rather quiet for the high standards of Jimmie Johnson in that era. This was the Jimmie Johnson equivalent of Danica Patrick getting lapped and finishing outside the top 25. But still, this car isn't a total jinx, even though he got spun out at the Richmond race. White Lightning wouldn't strike again until June 29th. Check that, June 30th of 2013. Storms delayed the start to the Quaker State 400, so the alternate would make its first appearance in the broad daylight. And on that afternoon in the Kentucky Downs, it was a mere Sunday drive for the league's dominator, 182 laps led. Matt Kenseth and Carl Edwards were the only cars that could keep up with the Lowe's SS, and even then, it felt like he was on a track of his own. Only a caution or catastrophic event was going to sink this sailing ship.
He had a spin off of turn 2, and there goes Brian Vickers hard into the wall. Might have been a right front tire.
Oh, would you look at that? Brian Vickers trying once again to screw Johnson out of a surefire victory. Where have I seen that before? No worries, as Vickernism will not cost the 48 on this impending restart. Seriously, this is head and shoulders the dominant car of the day. Jimmie Johnson is taking home that jukebox, no doubt. He is not losing this race with the vastly superior car. End of story.
And the 48 does not get a good restart. He's going to lose a couple of spots here possibly.
Joe, that's going to get sideways and wreck.
Yeah, he just cut down on the 22 car right there.
Losing a race off the bumper of Joey Logano. I can see why Jimmie Johnson fans were and are still triggered from this race. Still far from the pain Logano's nose caused another fellow champion. Yet the White Lightning SS was bolting for redemption. The location, Daytona Beach, Florida. Jimmie Johnson was longing to become the first driver since Bobby Allison in 1982 to sweep the points paying races in Daytona. And during the 400-mile race, Team Hendrick flexed its vintage superspeedway muscles. The 48 led 94 of the race's 161 laps to completely dominate and hold the field at bay. I'm telling you, the entire field, they were waiting for that white flag and begging for mercy. And this was especially disheartening for David Gilliland and Casey Mears, as pretty much this was one of only 4 races the entire year that they actually had a chance of winning. So to see Jimmie Johnson dominate a restrictor plate race was understandably disheartening. I feel bad for those small teams. So there you go, White Lightning, the special inverse, captured the checkered flag. Should be many more instances, considering Jimmie Johnson's 4 wins and a few night races left on the calendar year. Unfortunately, Vickernism struck once again and punctured Jimmie Johnson's radiator at Bristol. Another crash at Atlanta marked an abysmal stretch of 4 finishes 25th or worse. This would have costed Jimmie Johnson the regular season championship had it been an accolation at the time. But as we all know, Jimmie Johnson, Chad Knaus, and the 48 team flipped the switch and put together an elite 2013 playoffs. This included a final start from White Lightning, finishing 4th in the Queen City. For White Lightning, it didn't have the success that the Lowe's and the Cobalt schemes had that season. But still, this car isn't a jinx just yet. I mean, it was only a couple rough races at the end of 2013. So fresh off championship number 6, we had Lowe's as they were looking to once again change up the primary paint scheme. It was typical to see a refresh every 2 to 3 seasons, just to race some new paint schemes and to spark some merchandise sales. The racing stripes would remain, but now the primary Lowe's 48 would be White Lightning. There were a few minor tweaks from the original car, as you had the hood logo now in blue, and also the TV panel was altered. This was likely done so they could better see the logo on the back, or possibly Hendrick was playing with the gray area. But after that, this was it. This would be the ride inscribed in history after Jimmie Johnson ends the 2014 season hoisting his 7th NASCAR Cup Championship. Time to win some trophies. So after running Cobalt in the Sprint Unlimited race, White Lightning's first appearance of 2014 came in the dual races. Jimmie Johnson was pacing for a top 10 start in the 500, before he ran out of fuel and the primary car was battered to smithereens. However, he would rebound with 2 top 10 finishes to start the points-paying portion of the season. 2 races later, Lowe's ran an altered version with a green side skirt and TV panel to promote its spring season. That included a bird shouting an exclamation point. I see you, Lowe's. I see you trying to get hip and trendy with all those savvy millennials out there. In terms of the annual Jimmie Johnson homecoming, this was the 48 team's race to lose. 104 laps led on the day. Jimmie Johnson had a near 3-second lead over Jeff Gordon with just 7 laps to go. All he needed to do was cruise home, and he would win his 2nd race with White Lightning.
30,000 people.
That was Jimmie Johnson, the race leader.
Get it slow. Come to the outside.
Still far from the biggest Goodyear implosion, considering the controversies both on and off the track. Fortunately, the half-mile paperclip in Virginia 1 week later was another strong track for the 48. And once again, it was another Jimmie Johnson vintage performance at Martinsville. 296 laps led, well over half of the race. And seriously, who is going to challenge the paperclip champion, Kurt Busch? He hasn't even finished in the top 10 at Martinsville since 2005. Just get the champagne bottles popping already.
I think Kurt's feeling pretty racy and pretty confident right here that he's got a better car.
He's in there.
Got that fender there. He's there.
Johnson has to give way. And Kurt Busch has the inside as they cross the line with 11 to go. Johnson is to the back bumper of Kurt Busch. But they power off turn number 4, and the Outlaw wins the battle at Martinsville.
Okay, 2nd place. I mean, it isn't bad. But yet again, this is Jimmie Johnson we're talking about. Might as well go back to that old Ricky Bobby quote.
If you ain't first, you're last.
The next week would be Texas, which is, guess what? Another playground for Jimmie Johnson. He should defend his turf with ease as the reigning winner, right? Not until Dale Jr. decided to do some lawn mowing with his blade. Jimmie Johnson received damage to both his windshield and the nose of his White Lightning Chevrolet. He failed to recover from the incident, finishing 25th at arguably his best track. But come on, we all know green-colored cars are a curse. Thank goodness this cheesy promotion is behind us and we can go forward and Jimmie Johnson's going to start dominating and winning races in this car. Next on White Lightning's 2014 tour was the Aaron's 499. Lowe's would make a few tweaks to the design, as we wouldn't see the blue that we've seen the first couple races or the Cursed green. Instead, we'd see dark red, in which they were promoting Valspar paints. I mean, considering he lost 3 races at 3 of his greatest tracks, things can't get much more humiliating. It's not like this car is going to be the lightning strike of death and completely obliterate half the field. I mean, come on, it's a perfect day in the Alabamas.
Oh, there's the car. Who is that, the 48?
Oh, Logano's in it.
Yep,
and
48.
Busch and Reagan and more.
I stand corrected. Lightning completely struck down on this car, gave it bad aero, and would you look at that, millions and millions of dollars in damage. At least the White Lightning wasn't damaged, however. Unfortunately, the chances of a good day were, as he would finish 23rd in this race. Concluding Kansas, the White Lightning paint would be stored in favor of Cobalt Black and the annual Power of Pride paint scheme. That happened for 4 races, 3 of which were victories. But this isn't a curse, this is just Jimmie Johnson being vintage Jimmie Johnson at his better tracks. Before you know it, this car will be covered in confetti. And with 2 top 10s at Kentucky and Sonoma, things are on the upswing. The next track on the schedule is the Wicked Fast track in Lobster Country. Jimmie Johnson is on the outside pole at a track he's won 3 times, and he only has 3 career finishes outside the top 15. I expect this to be another statement race for White Lightning. Now go get that victory and prove this car isn't a curse.
And now Jimmie Johnson is off the pace. Left rear tire, something we've been watching all weekend.
All weekend long.
Okay, minor setback. There's still over 290 laps to compete, and get back into this race. Would you look at that, yet another race squandered away by tire issues. It's like the racing gods just completely strike the tires and they pop like a balloon. Taking a week off this scheme ran at Pocono, and guess what happens in that race? More tire issues. Yet another violent hit completely destroying the right side of Jimmie Johnson's car. Okay, you've got to put that race behind you. We've got Watkins Glen coming up. This should be a stepping stone race, as while Jimmie Johnson's never won at this track, he is very consistent at the road courses. He's done a lot of practicing, he's gotten a lot better over the past couple years, and I expect this to be a clean top 10 finish. And with less than 10 laps to go, he's in the preferred groove, and it's looking like it's going to be a solid day to get White Lightning back on track. As long as he gets through turn 1 and there are no more cautions the rest of the race, he is going to be home free for a top 10 finish.
Oh, Jimmie Johnson's around.
And another good race goes down the drain. Shocker. This would be the 3rd straight race in which Jimmie Johnson raced the White Lightning paint scheme that he would finish well outside the top 25. Yeah, it's safe to say this car is a jinx. And guess what? It turns out Jimmie Johnson himself believed that this car was a curse. Lowe's granted his wish of changing the primary paint job back to the championship blue that raced in 2013. Johnson stated, just in case, there is something to the superstition. We're going to cover that base and head up there with our blue race car. And just like that, the White Lightning era was over. Tons of crashes, blown tires, and races gone to the wayside because of bad luck or what this car is remembered for. I guess if there's one positive, at least this car actually won a race. But after that, White Lightning is definitely a cursed design. Unless Jimmie Johnson gets completely desperate in his final year, I doubt we're ever going to see a White Lightning car from the 48 ever again.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So anyways, this is NRF signing out, and just remember, life's a beach and then you drive.